Hey there, welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting. I'm Nicole and this is episode 47. If you are a returning viewer, thanks so much for being here. I can't wait to share everything I've been working on. I've been working on a lot. And if you are new here, this is my space of the internet where I share my knitting. Thanks. And you can find me on Instagram, Ravelry as profpurl, and everything I talk about is in the description box below. So there's a lot to share today, like so much to share. I've been knitting a lot and I don't have a single finished object. And that is 100% because I've been knitting a lot on a lot of things. So I just need to know, am I alone in that? Am I like knitting a lot on a lot of things? Or are you somebody that likes to knit on one thing, two things? Let me know where you're at on like how many projects. And is there like too many projects to work on at once? Okay, so let's get into it because there's a lot. Oh, before we get into it, there was a giveaway last episode of this amazing bag from Slick Chick that was gifted to me from Bitten Mitten. And I'm going to announce the winner to this at the end of the works in progress. So since I last recorded, this is the sweater I've been working on the most that's had my most attention, which is the Love Note from Tin Can Knits. And this is my 7th Love Note. So you might think it doesn't really look like a Love Note. It's missing the lace. It's, I think, really the only modification I did to the sweaters. Oh no, that's not true. I'll get into the details of the sweater, but it's a Love Note with no lace. I think this is my 3rd Love Note with no lace out of my 7 Love Notes I've made. So let's share all the good stuff about it. This does have a little bit of something that's like not going well, so I'll share that for the end. Okay, so I have a lot of single skeins of sock yarn. Let me know if that's you. Do you have a lot of single skeins of sock yarn? Which is great if you knit socks. I love hand knit socks. Oh, I'm wearing some right now. But I need to make other things besides socks, and musselburgh hats, good use of that too. It's just, I love sweater knitting so much. So I came up with the idea that what I would do is a Love Note where I use 2 different skeins of sock yarn, and then I would find, though there were 2 different skeins of sock yarn, maybe they would fade nicely into each other, and I did that. So from the Arkansas Sock Society box, this was one color that has like all these rainbows, and then this is another color that maybe is not showing up there. It's very white but pale yellow, blues and yellows and things with some speckles. And so what I did is I knit the rainbow color all the way through, split for sleeves, and then for about 3 inches I alternated between the 2 yarns and faded into this color down here, and I think it looks so good. And so I did that on the sleeves too. So all of this is the rainbow, and then this was kind of the rainbow and the lighter color one alternating, and then just the alternating. In the camera it looks like a stark change, but in person it's more subtle. And I just love the way it turned out. I did modify the collar. I have modified the collars on my Love Notes in so many different ways. So my last way I did it with no lace is I did a folded collar, and I really liked that. So I was thinking I might do that again, but I didn't. What I did is the pattern on this has short row shaping on the bottom if you want, optional to make it longer. Actually, here's my progress keeper of where I was the last time I recorded. So I did those short rows since the last time I recorded. I did a sew and bind off, looks really good. So I picked up stitches on the provisional cast on, and then I added short rows to the back so that the back of it kind of sits up more, and that's not in the pattern. And I was thinking maybe on my Ravelry page I should put the details of exactly what I did, but I'll just tell you here if you understand short rows. For the beginning of round would be, I just did 20 stitches this way, a German short row, 20 this way, and then a lot of patterns do 5 or 6 stitches between the increases. So I did that. So I did 6 stitches before the next turn. And so I did that for a total of 6 rows, or basically 3 short rows, like pairs of short rows. So I really like how it turned out. Again, did a sew and bind off. I really enjoy nice finishes. So tubular is my favorite, but I don't know. I just think with the mohair. Oh, sew and bind off on mohair with fingering. This is fingering and mohair held together. It can be kind of gnarly. So my kind of hack is that I just drop the mohair and I just do the sew and bind off with just the fingering. So anyway, love this sweater. I'm going to wear it a ton. What could go wrong? So I have a lot of this rainbow yarn left. Look at that. Yeah. But I ran out of the lighter color, and I did not think that would happen. I was thinking that I was using more of the rainbow yarn, but no, not. So basically on the sleeve, I am 2 rows away from doing the rapid decreasing and then 5 rows of ribbing. So I have 8 rows left, not a lot, and I ran out of the lighter color yarn. And I have a work trip tomorrow, like I'm leaving to go out of state. Like, this is not going to get resolved today, or maybe this week, to be honest. So I have some time to think about how I'm going to fix this. I'm going to share some of the things I'm thinking. So one thing I'm thinking is I could rip it back and just make shorter sleeves. It would be fine. And then I'd have extra yarn to finish it up. So I just would need to make this maybe about a five rows shorter, and it would look so good still. I don't want to do that, though. That's probably the best solution because I did sew and bind offs, and I don't like ripping out in mohair. And I know people will be like, put it in the freezer. I still think ripping out mohair is bad. Here's why. So the freezer is a good idea because the little mohair molecules shrink up, and so it makes it less fuzzy, therefore, right, like making it easier to pull out the mohair. But when you take it out of the freezer, it warms up very quickly, and then the molecules expand, and you're sort of right back at the situation you're back at. So I think it would work if like you were freezing it and then ripping it out in the freezing. But yeah, so I don't know. I just don't want to rip it out. So here are my options. So there's option A. So, I mean, I have a lot of the rainbow yarn left, so I could just finish it in the rainbow. And we can see like that doesn't look bad. Like these yarns go together. It wouldn't be the end of the world to have a little bit of rainbow on the bottom cuff of one of the sleeves. Though I do think that there is a big difference between kind of this very colorful thing and what's happening down here. So it kind of makes me want to not do that. So my other idea is I have a lot of Arkansas Yarn Company yarn from my Sock Society boxes, and I have one last skein of yarn that has a lot of white space. I think it was like the Louis Vuitton colorway. It's nearly white, all white with some green and purple speckles, which for 8 rows might be so subtle that it's negligent. So I was thinking I might just line that up and try to do that at the end, maybe. My other thought is that there's a lot of people that have the Arkansas Yarn Company sock box, and maybe somebody knit it and had some leftovers, and I can go on Ravelry and look and see if there's somebody that would have enough leftovers to do 8 rows, that they could just send it to me. So those are some of my thoughts. So like, this sweater is amazing and I'm gonna wear it a lot. I just kind of, I'm a little bummed out that I ran out of yarn. Played yarn chicken and I did not win. This sweater though, I'm so excited for it because I do not have a white sweater in my wardrobe, and now I do. And I love bright colors, fun colors. So the idea that like I have a white sweater with flare, like rainbow, is so good. I'm so excited. So almost a finished object once I figure out how I'm gonna problem solve this. My next work in progress was a bit of an unexpected cast on, and I'm so glad I did. So Maddie and Kristen from the We Share Needles podcast, they have a knit along. It might be over by now, I'm not sure. But it was called like the book report Makealong. I don't actually remember the hashtag, but I remember the premise, which is that essentially like you read your book and then you pick a colorway that's inspired from your book, and then you knit a hat. And like the colorway doesn't have to be specifically designed for your book. For example, this colorway is amazing. It's from Porter Wool. Do I have the tag? Yeah, so here's the tag. Porter Wool. It's a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards. This colorway is like the variegated. It's like subtly variegated. Might even just call it tonal on the background, which is like a purple and a pale pink. It's incredible. So that's like the base. And then there's these like hot pink and orange and like purple speckles. It's so good. I got it at the Flock Fiber Festival this August. It's called Flock Party. Yeah. So it doesn't have like a theme towards a book. It's Flock Party. It was after a fiber festival, but it made me think of a character from a book I'm reading. I'm reading, and slowly, the second book in the Fourth Wing series. So Fourth Wing, I read rapidly. Loved it so much. And then I read it a second time. And then I have Iron Flame. And I'm still my first time through Iron Flame. And part one, the ending of part 1 was like, what? And now I'm in part 2. I'm on page 444. And there's 600 and something pages. 623 pages. So I have less than 200 pages to go, and I'm really enjoying it. I convinced some swim moms, my daughter Matilda's on swim team, to read this series too, and they read Fourth Wing very fast, and then they read Iron Flame very fast, so I feel a little bit like disappointing that I haven't gone all the way through. Anyway, I'm talking about the book. I need a transition, but that's sort of the point of the Makealong, is that you read a book and there's a character in there named Violet. So I picked this color it was a literal interpretation of a violet colorway for her. The character Violet also is described as having like a braid, and at the tip of her braid or her hair, the ends of her tips are silver. So I was thinking a silver Musselburgh or a gray one would be really good. Or I was thinking like a black one that kind of goes with the book might be nice. Anyway, so since I last recorded, look, what? I mean, not quite halfway, maybe halfway. I don't know. I've made some progress though. This is so fun to knit for so many reasons. The colorway is incredible. It's lining up with a book that's bringing me joy. I put my knitting jewelry on that matches, which is always like a love language for me. I love when my knitting jewelry matches my yarn so much. So these are stitch markers from Purl Smith. My friend Anna from Zebra Yarns gave them to me for a birthday gift one year. They're so cute. And then this is from Twin Mountain Handcrafts. It's like this iridescent sheep, and that's my progress keeper. I've been moving it every day so I can see how much I get knit in a day on it. I think I ended up knitting on this more than I realized because I've just been really busy, and it's been really nice meeting knitting. It's very portable to work, more so than a sweater sometimes, and it's been very portable for like Matilda's swim team and things like this. So much joy out of this. And like I said, I leave tomorrow for a work trip, and I want to pack light. I love doing carry-on for work trips, and so I'm leaning towards this being my work trip knitting. So when I last recorded, I shared that I'm knitting the Heirloom cardigan with my Chelsea Yarns Advent that I opened up this past December. And it's going to take me a while to knit this. I've made some progress. I've made enough rectangles for the front 2 panels. So there's a right and a left side, and I have enough rectangles for that. And I've just started the back rectangles. So that's really exciting. I need 15 for the back, so it's going to be a while. My goal is to, every time I record, like have an update on the sweater so it doesn't like languish. But I do want to work on other things besides it. So I've made 3 rectangles since we last recorded. And the fun thing about it with the mini skeins, the pattern was not designed to use an Advent or mini skeins, but you can. Basically, one mini skein makes both the star, the inside star, and the background, which I think is really fun. So that's been kind of my like new routine, is I get a mini skein out, and then I make it a star, and then I make it a background, and then that's how I want to keep moving forward. It's not how I started knitting it, but it's the flow that I've found that I like. And so this, I feel like, was like the Rockettes colorway, and this brown, I am not a brown person. Like, I would not go to this yarn store and be like, brown yarn, but I've fallen in love with this brown, which is, I think, like chestnuts on the street corner or something. Today's lighting, it's gray in Oregon. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and it's just gray and gloomy, so it's not going to show up here on the camera very well. But one day I was knitting this in the bright, like, winter sun, and I realized that this chestnut color had undertones to it, and it had like pinky mauvey undertones, and it made me fall in love with this brown. Again, I can only see it in the bright light, which means like I'm the only person that's probably going to see that when I wear it. But anyway, it brought me joy. So that's that. This colorway in here, it's the Chelsea Yarn special colorway that was called like I Love You New York. And it was the final, like the 25th whole skein. She also was selling it quite a bit for like hat kits and things like this. I used it as a background color on a different rectangle, and I didn't really like how it looked. It wasn't pooling, and I wanted it to pool. So for this one, when I was putting my yarns together, the whole double, I tried to match it up, like tried to match the mint with the mint and the yellow with the yellow, so that I could get this, I like this pooling effect. I wanted to see that. And so I wound up a new mini skein, which is this purple one with hot pink flecks. I don't remember the name of it. And I decided that this is going to be my next one. Since I used it on the star, my next one, it'll be the background. And so my strategy for that is I just kind of like look through the yarn for whatever I think would be a good star with it. My other strategy has been to do, so this is like a light background and a dark star. I'm trying to do a balance where it's like this is a dark background and a light star. Because my thought was maybe when placing them, I would go every other, like kind of, oops, dark light, dark light. We'll see, we'll see if I end up doing that or not. But so not any big updates on the Heirloom cardigan, but I was working on it and I love it. And I'm praying that I will be committed enough to sew the pieces together. That's the big question. I think I can knit all the rectangles, but will I sew it? Since I last recorded, a Bouclé Makealong that I'm co-hosting has started. So my friend Emily, who's the botanical knitter on YouTube and on Instagram, she and I, back in Flock, Sacred Sheep time, we were like, we need to do a Bouclé make-along together because we had bought some Bouclé yarn. So that was the inspo behind it. And so February 1st was the kickoff for it. And this past Friday, she and I did an Instagram live, and I had just so much fun. It was just like, I can't even describe how much fun the Instagram live was. And I think it's saved on her grid if you want to check it out. And I also have a Bouclé inspo video here that I posted before the make-along if you're looking for some more talk about Bouclé patterns and things like that. But what I'm going to update you on are my 2 Bouclé projects and like, how's that going? So Makealong goes from February 1st until April 10th, and the hashtag is Bouclé Buddies Cozy Mal. That's the hashtag on Instagram. And there's Ravelry, both chatter and finished object threads open up on my Ravelry page now. So, if you're going to tag us or like use the hashtag on Instagram, just wanted to say, make sure that you tag Emily and I, like, just for Instagram, I think is to make sure that we can see your posts. Okay. Let me hop into my Bouclé projects. Okay, so this Bouclé right here is sort of the Bouclé that started the idea for the Bouclé make-along. I bought this yarn at Sacred Sheep from Junk Yarn. It's DK Bouclé. Pink. Actually, the base is like pink and gray. You can't really see it there, but like there's like little tones of pink, of gray. And then there's like these neon speckles. There's like a trend here, right? Loving the speckles, neon speckles on a pale base. So love it. This color is called Penelope, and I just was so excited when I saw this Bouclé yarn in Junk Yarn booth, and Kemper had a sample that was a mashup of the Cozy Classic Raglan with the ruffles from the Flutter buttshirt. So I'm also going to do that. So I'm going to mash 2 patterns together. Cozy Classic Raglan, cropped, short sleeve with ruffles on the sleeves. So I swatched, and that's my progress. And I washed it, dried it. I love the fabric, but I'm not getting gauge. I'm getting, in stitch gauge, I'm getting 17 stitches per 4 inches, and the pattern recommends 18 stitches per 4 inches. So I could go down a needle size, but the pattern recommends a US size 7, and I've already gone down 2 needle sizes because I'm on a loose knitter. So this is meaning on a US size 5. So that would mean going down to a US size 4 to try to get the 18 stitches, which would be fine. But I'm like running out of US size 4 needles, so I kind of want to do it on a size 5. But I also really like the fabric. It's not like see-through, like you can't, like when I put my skin behind it, like you can't see it. So it is creating a dense fabric. But it, like for Bouclé, has a bit of drape. So I do, even though I got a larger gauge of 17 instead of 18, I do like it. So what I think I'm going to do is a little bit of math and pick the right size for me. Oh, so if I'm getting 17 stitches per 4 inches instead of 18 stitches per 4 inches, it means my stitches are bigger, which means that whatever I would knit would turn out a little bit bigger than the design would say. You might say, well, it's just 1 stitch, but it does add up, right? Like, because that's 1 stitch every 4 inches of more. So, you know, if you're knitting something that's 40 inches around, that's more stitches. Okay. I was going to get into more math, but I just stopped myself. I'm a math education professor, so like I wanted to just do some more math there, but I'm pulling it back. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, Love Note sweater going, Cozy Classic Raglan, and yeah, I cast on another sweater. So for the make along, I cast on 2 sweaters. Like I realize that that's wild, but I wanted to. Why not? Okay. So that was the plan. Like, that was the whole point of the Makealong, is I was going to do that. And I'm going to do that. But here's what happened. Shayla from, I'm going to say it like that because I was like, I don't know if she's watching this, but she influenced me in a good way because, like, look at this yarn. Look at this yarn. Okay. It is super bulky bouclé. So Shayla said that she bought this yarn called Chester. Valley Yarns Chester, and it's made by Webs. And that's super bulky. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I was like, thinking about getting it. And then I was like, no. Like, I got this sweater over here. Like, I'm not going to do it. And then she's like, it's on sale. You see what happened. It's super bulky, so you have to buy a lot of the yarn so you can make the sweater. So, oh, and I wound it up. It was just like the biggest cake, and like, it's just so rewarding. So yeah, so I swatched, dried it. Can you see stitches here? I cannot. So yeah, so on live, the would you rather question that I asked Emily and friends that were on the live, I said, would you rather swatch this and not be able to read the stitches or wing it? And a lot of people said wing it. And I get it. So I'm knitting the Sammal sweater. Hopefully I'm popping in a picture here. And it's a drop shoulder design that's top down. And really, I was thinking about you could wing it. Like, because like you hold this up and you like kind of say to yourself, like, is this wide enough? Is it too wide? Is it just right around my, like, I feel like it's kind of like a sweatshirt. So like holding it up to my sweatshirt, I see like where this goes on here, and I quite like it. I think, okay, that's good. And then eventually you're going to attach two sides for the front, like armholes. You can pop that over your head, see if you like the fit. Then you're going to join in the round, pop it over. Do your arms fit through? Are you liking the fit? So I mean, like, in a way, like, you really can wing it as long as you're like okay with ripping out if you need to. So, but I persevered with this gauge swatch. So I did it at like in the evening and I couldn't see it. And so I was like, okay, the next morning I'm going to look for this and see if I can see it in the light. And I couldn't. And so that's why in the would you rather part of the live for the bouclé, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. What I did over the weekend is I actually like put little stitch markers in on some of the stitches to help me count and like focus. Instead of being able to see the stitch, I tried to look for columns. And I discovered that I got stitch gauge. I did not get row gauge. So what that means is I got stitch gauge for the pieces. So like how wide it is, but my row, like I think my row gauge is substantially bigger. I forget what the numbers are, but like mine was like almost shockingly bigger. Like my stitches are much taller. And so that could be a problem for some patterns, but for this one, it won't be because all the things in terms of like armhole depth and things like this are done with measuring. So even though my gauge is off, I can just measure and it's going to be fine. So you just can't see the stitches on this. Shayla's knitting the same sweater in cream. You should go to her grid. Like, it's gonna be amazing in cream. Like, a little part of me is regretful I didn't do it in cream. I do now. But lime is awesome, and I think it's gonna be really cool. So she was ahead of me, so she messaged and she's like, pro tip for the short rows, use a stitch marker. Like you do German short rows to make like a double stitch. And so I did that this weekend, and I was like, I'm so glad I did that because you just can't see the stitches. And the yarn's, it's not, I don't want to call it splitty because it's not splitty, but like I was confused when I'd look at the double stitch and know, like, is that just the fluff or is it a double stitch? It's so hard to see the stitches. So what I would do when I was doing the short rows is I would like put my stitch marker on where the double stitch was, and there's a part of the pattern that makes you go past it. And so then I would like kind of take it off and just move it. So I'm really glad I did that. And I've been counting my stitches because like, I don't even know, I've been counting my stitches a lot. Just like checking to make sure I have the right amount. Because if I dropped one of these, I don't even think I would see it. Anyway, so I haven't made it very far on my small sweater, but I had a busy weekend but I started. It's going to be gratifying. I want to knit this. Like, this is the thing I want to be working on right now, but I just haven't had time. And I leave on a work trip tomorrow, and I'm like, do I shove the super bulky yarn in my carry-on? Like, do I wind up like one or two and bring it with me? What would you do? Let me know. By the time this is uploaded on YouTube, I'm probably at the airport, but I don't know what I'll do. Because it's interesting because like what I want to knit is this. And so I feel like I should maybe just figure out how to shove it in. I'm gone. The problem is I'm gone for not a whole week, but like a big chunk of time with dress clothes. I'm like, I just really don't want to check a bag. Okay, I'm oversharing. Back onto the bouclé part. So, given my circumstances of my bouclé knitting and my problems with my like love no mohair, I thought I would ask a couple would you rather questions. Let me know. So, would you rather rip out fingering in mohair, or would you rather rip out bouclé? I feel like for me, the answer is bouclé. I'd rather rip out bouclé because I think I've already ripped out something. Maybe not. I just get the sense that it's easier to rip out than mohair. I do think it would be not fun to rip out, but I feel like it would be better than mohair. Okay, my next would you rather. Would you rather, let's say you have to do a sewn bind off, like a tubular bind off or Italian sewn bind off. Would you rather do that with fingering in mohair or with bouclé? I feel like it would be easier to do with bouclé than fingering in mohair. So I could see like a bouclé, but I feel like I would pick fingering in mohair instead of bouclé because like, this is the cast on and you can't even see it. So like, I feel like it wouldn't be very rewarding to do the sewn bind off with bouclé. So I think that's why I would pick fingering in mohair for a sewn bind off, though I think it would be more miserable. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted. I was like knitting. That is all my works in progress. So 3 sweaters, a Musselburgh. No, 4 sweaters. I'm working on 4 sweaters at once. Would you ever do that? There's a would you rather. Would you rather knit whatever sweaters you want, whenever you want, or just only one sweater at a time? Clearly we know my answer for mine. Let's announce the winner of this. I haven't drawn it yet, so the name will be on the screen. So if you're seeing your name on the screen, reach out to me. So you can reach out to me via email, that's in the description box below, or you can reach out to me on Instagram or Ravelry. However, send me your shipping address and I will get this out to you. Congratulations. Okay, we are to the personal section of the episode, so there's no more knitting from this point forward. I think I'm gonna knit through it, but I'm not gonna talk about knitting anymore. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you're not here for the personal stuff, that's fine. You've been warned. So I like to share what I'm reading usually. There's not much to share, Because I've just been in a busy season of reading at work. I'm a professor, a math education professor, and so I've been reading a lot for work. There's just seasons, and so right now I have 2 doctoral students I'm advising, so I've been reading dissertations. I've been reading portfolios. I've been reading proposals and things like this. Like, it's just been a lot of reading. And so when I get home at night and then I help Matilda, my kindergartner, with her homework and things, I just don't really feel like reading. And so I have been knitting, and that's been really fun. I just haven't been reading a lot. I've been slowly reading Iron Flame, as I said. I've checked out some resources on like Hygge and things like that, like Nordic self-care, because I'm currently at work planning a study abroad class. We have a cool program at my university where professors can make a study abroad class. And so you teach a class about some countries or like a topic, and then you take the students for a month abroad. And so I did this in the past. I did a class, an art class, and then I took my students to Spain and Portugal. I think we went to 22 art museums. And so I'm designing a new class. This would be in the spring of 2025, so a year from now, but all the things are due like this month, actually in 2 weeks. And because the students sign up for a year in advance. But essentially, I'm designing this class that we would do a study abroad to Iceland and Sweden. And so I'm designing the class around 3 tenets. One's Hygge, one's Lacombe, and one is Nuta. I'm not saying these words. I need to learn how to pronounce these words since I'm going to be teaching this class. And so I've been doing some like reading about that. So if you have any recommendations on books about those topics, I would love to know that. And so essentially, basically, this time next year, I'd be teaching a class on this, and then to my students. And then for the month of May, we will go to Iceland and Sweden. And I have my itinerary kind of like nailed down. So that's a fun thing for work. I have some work trips coming up here, which I've mentioned several times. I think I've been mentioning it more out of like a Freudian slip of like, I should be packing. My PowerPoints need to be done still, kind of things. But mom life, Matilda has been, that's my kindergartner, so busy. Like so many things. She had a violin recital. I'll try to pop in the video of it here at the end. She's had a lot of swim team life going on. Actually, I fly back from my conference on Saturday, and like I'll get home at like midnight. And then on Sunday, we will go to an away meet. It's called like the last chance meet because it's the last time to qualify individually for state swimming. Matilda has already qualified for state in 2 relay events, so she will be swimming at state the 100-yard freestyle medley. Okay, one of the relays is all freestyle, 100 yards for girls, and then the other relay is a medley, so it's like different strokes and 100 yards, all girls. And they're both 8 and under. Matilda's 6, so I like didn't think she'd go to state this year at all, but she is, and I think that's really cool. Like I'm so proud. I'm probably gonna buy all the state swag when I get there. Like, you'll like, see me wearing like an Oregon State swimming t-shirt probably on the YouTube channel here, I'm sure. So we're really, really proud, and Scylla's hoping. She really wants to qualify in more events, but I think it's great that she's in 2 relays. So that's what she's got going on. What else is there? I think that's primarily it. I think my reading plans are, I'm really just scattered here, didn't plan it. I think when I finish Iron Flame, what I'm going to do is start into the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. I have the first 2 books. I know the third one just came out. I started them, the first book, and it was hard for me to get into. And then I really got into it, and then life got crazy, like at work and stuff, and I got distracted from it and stopped reading it and moved on to other books. So I want to go back to it. I've been really enjoying the kind of escapism from Iron Flame. And yeah, so I definitely want to dive into another fantasy series. So if you have any other recommendations for fantasy series too, besides Sarah J. Maas, I read a lot of Sarah J. Maas. So if you're reading something else as fantasy that you think I would enjoy, I would love to know that as well. So that's what's been going on, and I hope that you're having fun with your knitting like I am. Maybe you're actually finishing things. So anyway, have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.